This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by GCals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today. Also sponsored by Mask Design, boldly going where no masking kit has gone before. Take your model to the next level of detail and accuracy with a masking kit from Mask Design. Visit Mask Design on Facebook or click the ordering link in the notes below the video. Also sponsored by Paragrafix. Add superior detail and accuracy to your models with photo etch, resin, and multimedia accessories from your first source for photo etch parts and more. Paragrafix. They count rivets so you don't have to. Visit Paragrafix at www.paragrafix.biz or click the link in the notes below this video.
Hey, what's up, fellow model heads? Will here. Welcome to the Engine's Chair. This episode we are going to continue working on the lighting for the hull, the main hull for the 1537 Reliant. I'll give you a quick preview. This is where I'm at. With all this lighting in here, you can't really see too much, but I didn't want it overly bright anyway. But you can see once I get those inserts in there, you won't get those hot spots, but you can see a couple hot spots in there, and that's because those lights are shining directly out the back. But here is the window insert lighting that we looked at last time, and we're going to look at this add-on, if I can get it turned right, for the lower sensor dome, which I've got down here. I made a whole new sensor dome. So we're going to take a look at that. You can see some of the lighting there. You can see that light. I've got that lower impulse crystal, which apparently isn't really an impulse crystal because it flashes along with the navigational lights. But so I've got all that stuff in place. I'm going to do one more episode after this covering the lighting of the main hull anyway. We still got to do the nacelles and the upper roll bar with the weapons pod, so still got to do all that. But as far as getting the main hull done, which is the biggest bulk of the lighting, I'll do one more episode after this. That's just going to cover doing the top section of the saucer. We're pretty much done the bottom at this point, and so that'll be it. We'll be done with that, and then we can move on to the other parts of the ship. But just want to say, I'm looking at my TV here. I'm sure other people realize this, but Pluto TV now has Star Trek. They've got like 3 or 4 Star Trek channels now. Now they've got the motion picture Star Trek channel. So it's great to be able to sit here and build and just let that play all day. So I'm really kind of enjoying. Right now, First Contact is on, and they've kind of been looping through the Next Generation movies. I'm waiting for them to go back at some point, hopefully, to the original series motion pictures, because they had those on early this week, but now they're going to switch to Next Generation. I guess they're alternating them. But anyway, so just wanted to mention that for those that may not be aware, Pluto TV, it's free. and you can turn it on and just let it play and work on your model, and you know, it's a little bit of enjoyment. Usually I listen to music when I'm building, so it's a little bit of a nice change for once to really have something, especially something Star Trek related, while I'm building. But all the add-ons, everything that I've done, the window inserts, the lower sensor dome that I've now made that will be available, and everything that I've done, all the upgrades I've done for this. My plan was to put this out as a kit myself, as a 3D printed kit. However, Cass over Lake Monster Details has reached out to me, and he really wants to do this now. He wants to make these resin parts and get them out. So I've sent him the files. He has the files at this point. He has promised me it will not take him long to get these out, because I know it took a little bit of time for the veneers for the Kronos 1 that I did to get put out. But he said he's going to knock these out. He's going to get these out. So these will be over there. I will still have the light boxes will still be a free download once I'm certain I'm done making all the light boxes that I think need to be made for this. And I think we're pretty close. I need to wait till I do the nacelles, make sure I'm not going to need to make any light boxes for that. And then I'll put those up on my Colts 3D. I'll put a link for that in the video, and I'll let you know in that video once I put that up. So just keep an eye on this build series, and I'll let you know when that's ready. But Cass is going to go ahead and take over these parts, because I've said from the beginning, I don't want to be in the part making business. That's not what I want to do. I want to build models. And Cass is negotiated with me to get these parts now. So he has the parts. He's going to get them made into resin casts, so that way the resin's much better. The cast resin's better than me than a printed part. So I'm glad to let him take this over and just go ahead and get those parts made available to everybody. So keep an eye out for that on Lake Monster Details website, and also when they go up, I will let you know on this build page. I'm hopefully he has them done before I'm even done this build, and I can let you know. But anyway, so 1537 Reliant. Give me a minute. I'll put you on the bench. We'll get to work. All right, so here we are again. I've got to work out a couple of things before I can finish up this bottom part. I want to get the sensor dome, which is under here, and the lower impulse crystal, which is really just a blinking light, done, because I've got to have these. I've got to have the painted pieces in place. I've got to have the clear dome in place, and I want to have this painted because it's just easier to do before I start doing everything else. So I want to get that done, and I want to get this lower sensor dome kind of situated and figured out. Right now I've got actually a 5mm LED sticking out that's just going to, what I've done with this so far is I've got the lower sensor dome, and this just fits into place, and then I've got this 5mm LED. You can see I've drilled a hole in the middle of here, just big enough for this 5mm LED to fit in. And let me plug this in. When that turns on, don't know if you'll be able to see it right now, because it really helps to have this mounted down for all that light to kind of focus out. But I've got these two. Let me hold this up and see if maybe you can see it. If I can get some more slack out of my cable here. Let me try to focus this a little bit. But I've got that red. I don't know if you can really make it out much, but I've got that red painted. Yeah, let's go ahead and stick it in here. It's a little easier to tell when all that light is being pushed out through the front. But you can see that those two red lights lighting up there. There's also a lot of light leak around it. I'm going to take care of that in a minute. I'm going to show you how I'm going to deal with that. But I've got this kind of painted, and I'm not real too happy with it right now the way it is. I know it's only a 1537. But you know, if you see my videos, I like to try to cram as much detail as possible into my builds, and I'm just not happy with the level of detail on this right now. Let me show you a picture of the front of the lower sensor dome where those two red lights are, and there you go, right there. You can tell there's a bit more going on with this than on the refit. lower sensor dome with the forward lighting. Now, I've looked at screenshots and I've looked at gone back through the movie and kind of run through that. And it doesn't look like the two side lights are lit in red. It looks like they're low, like a low clear light, like a low spotlight. Just barely light coming out of it. Same thing for the rear. And of course on the front, on the Reliant, all you've got is those two bulbs, which you can kind of make out right there. You can make out those two darker bulb shapes sticking out from the hole right in front of the opening there. And those are your lights. And what I did on my previous Reliant build was I actually drilled holes there and put small SMDs in there, and it looked really good. The only reason I'm not doing it on this one is because I'm using Cass's part from Lake Monster Details, and it's already got that detail in the clear part that Cass makes. And I want to do the same thing on the bottom. I don't want to do something different on the bottom that's not being done on the top. So, but you can see there's a little more detail there. There's some greeblies there, and I kind of want to try to add those. They'd be really really small at this scale, but I'm gonna see if I can maybe get something going, add some greeblies in front of that, kind of like you see there on the studio model, just to give it a little more depth and just a little more scale maybe. But I'm just not happy with the way this looks. I did do some of the blue paint like you see in that, but I'm just not happy with the way it looks. It just looks too plain to me. So I'm going to do a little more work on this before I get it in place. But basically what I'm going to do with this is once I get this clear piece ready to go, and basically all I did was I masked off, you can see there, I masked off where the spotlights are supposed to come through. And like I said, they're just a low power spotlight. When you look at it in the movie on the studio model, there's no real light there. These aren't lit red. Unlike the bridge dome, all three sides of that have the red lights. But this one only had the red lights on the front as far as I could tell from looking at the movie. But I'm going to, what I'm going to do is once I get this ready, I'm going to take some, to take care of that light leak around the top where it meets the lower sensor dome part. I'm going to take some tulip, some matte tulip, and I'm going to make a line across around here. That way when I put this and this together, that matte tulip will fill that void and I won't get that light leak over the top. And then what I can do is when I go to mount this to the hull, I can do the same thing on the bottom across here. Now around the sides I'm not worried about, because once I get this glued to the hull, I will use my perfect plastic putty. I'll run a bead all the way around this and clean it up, and that'll take care of any light leaks around the edges. But as far as for where the light comes out, I'm going to use a little matte tulip there. That way when I push this down, I'll get a good seal right where all that light is coming out at. And that should take care of that. We'll look at that more when I get to that point. But just to give you an idea what I'm looking at for that. So that's what I'm working on with that. And the other thing I've got to get done is this this lower impulse crystal. It's in the location of a low impulse crystal. But like I've said, really, if you watch the movie, this just blinks in sync with your nav lights. These two lights back here, you look at the movie, it's blinking on and off the same rate as these. So what I've done was I've got all kinds of light bulb colors, but I don't have an orange or amber color. So what I did was I took a clear bulb and where's my battery? I just used some of my Tamiya orange, clear orange, and I painted this amber color, so you can see there. It's coming out a little more yellow in the video, it looks like, but it's more amber in person, just like, to me, it's what it looks like in the movie. The movie, it could very well be yellow in the movie, and just because of the way the filming is and the lighting they use, it looks amber. But it looks amber to me, so that's what I'm going to go with. But what I need to do is get this in place. Let me unplug this. And I've made this part here to where it'll just sit right in place over that opening in the back, and that will give me, that'll center my light up right there. You can see that bulb is centered up. And but before I can even do that, I have got to get this the lens in place, and I need to get this painted blue along with the lens. But I've got to figure out what color I want to use, because we'll look at another picture. It's kind of not clear what the color of that blue was, how dark or light of a shade it was. Now, if you look at this picture, for instance, this is you can see this is kind of a lighter, it looks like it's a lighter blue. But if you look at this picture, it looks like it's more of a dark blue. So I've gone through these photos, and there's another photo here of a picture of the larger section they built to blow up that impulse crystal when it was being fired at with that initial engagement with the Enterprise. When that impulse crystal was blown up, this is the model they used for that. But you could see in that picture also it looks like a darker blue. Again, could just be the lighting. Could be a filter they used when they took the picture. I don't know. But more often than not, I see pictures of it where it looks like it's a darker blue. And I think I haven't mixed the paint that's in Gary's guide. I think it looks like that paint is for a lighter blue. Nothing to say that's wrong. I don't know. This is my guess and my personal opinion. But I'm looking at this, and to me it just looks like it should be a darker blue. A lighter blue would make sense because that's the color. It was, I think it went between a green and a blue on the refit model, depending on when it was what painting was done on at the time. But blue is what you see a lot of people use around that impulse crystal on the refit. So there's nothing wrong with using that color if that's what you want to do. But I think I'm going to actually go with a darker blue. And what I did was I went to Hobby Lobby and I picked up a couple blue paints I thought looked close to the color I was looking for. Personally, I prefer to go out and try to find a paint that I can use and recommend for use if you want to go this route without having to do a lot of mixing. So I found some colors, and what I did was I looked at this and I matched, and I know this isn't an accurate way to do it, but I got to go with what I see on screen and what I see in pictures. As far as, I mean, that's all I got. Without the model, actual studio model sitting in front of me, I don't have a whole lot to go on. Without color corrected photos to go by, I don't have anything to go with. And I haven't really seen any color corrected photos. They look like basically what I've seen is pictures from the Christie's auction, and I've got some pictures. I've got some pictures that look like it's probably taken. It was probably pulled out of the crate in the warehouse or something at some point, and they took some pictures. But so going by those pictures and going by the assumption that it's a darker blue, because when you look at, let me see if I can pull up this screenshot I took from the movie. And again, not a great way to go by trying to figure out color, because they use all kinds of filters when they're filming the model, and this could be totally be the wrong color from the studio model. But again, I'm just going by what I see on screen. And to me, from what I can tell, looking at that screenshot, and it may not be clear to see, you kind of got to watch it and then play it back a couple times. I took this screenshot from the movie, and you got to kind of reverse it and let it play a couple times and look at it. But to me, it looks, excuse me, even in the movie, it looks like it's a darker blue to me. It doesn't look like the light blue color that is apparent in some of those pictures, and that a lot of people paint theirs. So anyway, I went to Hobby Lobby, picked out 4 colors I thought looked pretty close to what I want to be, and these are the colors that I chose to try out. And right off, I can tell you this first one is Folk Art True Blue. And right off the bat, I think it's too dark. Smaller scale models, you typically want to go lighter, not darker. And I think it's just too dark, especially for this scale. Even if it wasn't at this scale, I still think that might be kind of too dark of a blue. And then beside that, you've got Deco Art, Crisp Blue, Crisp, C-R-I-S-P Blue. That one actually looks pretty good. I like that one. And then the next one over is Deco Art Bright Blue, which I didn't think looked too bad at first. But one thing you want to do is when you're trying to color match based on looking at a picture and looking at color swatches that you've painted, you want to make the comparison with the same color background that you're looking to try to compare that with. So for example, I'm looking at the Impulse deck, actually the top side, because I haven't found any real good pictures of the lower one. But look at pictures of the top side. You've got a white surround because the ship is white. So what you want to do is when you're trying to compare a secondary color to a primary color, you want to have that primary color as your background. So that's why I've got these mounted on a white piece of styrene, because that way I can kind of get a better idea what color looks closer to me in my eyes. Because not everybody sees colors the same way, and colors even look different. I mean, take a couple different whites and put them on swatches, and then put them on a piece of white styrene like this, and I guarantee you most of those whites are not going to be a true white. Even though they might just say white, they're not going to be a true white. And to me, a piece of styrene is about as close to true white as you're going to get. And I say true white loosely because everybody's got a different definition of what true white is. But to me, true white is a white that is absent of any color, period. Whether it be a tannish color or a bluish color or any of that. So I think a piece of sheet styrene is about as close as you're going to get to that. So this color's not bad. I still think it might be a little dark for this scale. If I was doing a 1/350 or a larger one, that might be a good one to go with. But again, I want to go a little bit lighter because of the scale of this, because it's such a small scale. The smaller the scale, like I said, typically you want to go a lighter color. This one actually looked pretty good too. And this is, what is this? Ocean Blue, Deco Art again. All three of these were Deco Arts. This one was a folk art. This is Deco Art Ocean Blue. That one's not bad either for this scale, I don't think, either. So I'm kind of between these two colors right now. And when I look at the studio model, I'm feeling like this Ocean Blue is actually pretty close to what I see when I look at pictures of the studio model, and I'm looking at the darker pictures where this looks like a darker blue instead of a lighter blue. So I'm going to try this out, and on a couple spots where it's going to be easy for me to change it if I want to. For example, one good spot to try is this Impulse, because if I don't like the way it looks, I can just come back over it with the darker color. This will cover this lighter color either, because this is slightly darker than this color. So I'm going to try this lighter color since that's the one I feel like is good. If I don't like it, again, I'll just come over it with this color since it's a little bit darker, a little easier to cover that. And because these are all craft paints, I won't have any problem with any interaction issues with that. So just wanted to talk about that. That's kind of where I'm at on my blue. And these actually look a little bit lighter now that I'm looking at the viewfinder than these do in person. So again, it's difficult to go by a picture or by the movie itself and figure out what the correct color blue is. You just kind of got to go with what looks good to you, and that's what looks good to me. So there's my explanation on that. Rant done. So now what I've got to do is I've got to get this smaller crystal painted, and that's going to be the first thing I do with Gary's masks for mask design, is paint this lower dome. I'm not going to go into all the steps of painting. If you want to see how to paint these, look at Gary's video. I will go over some stuff because Gary likes the idea of somebody else showing. Gary likes other people showing other people besides him how to paint these. And I don't recall if he really goes into much detail about painting the domes. I'll have to look back at the videos. But he's got small enough masks to mask this off and paint it. So what I might have to do first is put the masks on, light block this with some black paint because this is a clear part. Then I'm going to have to put a coat of white over this, because if I try to come over black with a blue paint, it's going to be a really dark blue, and it's going to take a lot of coats to get it to lighten up to the proper color. So what I might have to do is light block this with black first. Then I'll come over it with a thin coat of white, not a thick coat, just a coat light enough to lighten it up to where I don't have to put a lot of coats of blue on to make it the right tone. And then I can finally paint my my choice of color, choice of blue on this, and get it done. So I'm gonna work on that. I'll come back and show you before I paint this what it looks like with just the masks on it, and we'll go from there. So stay tuned. All right, I do have to say these are probably the smallest masks I have had to apply, especially those ones in the middle. I would not attempt this without a good pair of magnifiers, because I just don't see, at least my eyes, and maybe if you've got, you know, perfect vision or better than 20/20, you can probably do it. But outside of that, these are very hard to see and make sure they're all where they need to be. Now Gary does give you plenty of masks. If you make a mistake, you lose one. I didn't need to use more than what was provided, but you can see that one there. There's actually more on that for that top ring than what you need to begin with. This bottom ring, you're going to need every one of these, but if you mess up, Gary has provided a second set, so you can go back and pluck from that if you need to. Or what I might do is, after I put my black light blocking coat and my white coat on here, I might pluck these off and then reapply another set just to keep paint buildup from causing any problems, because these are such small masks. The only thing harder than applying these is probably going to be plucking them off without scratching the light blocking on it. So but this is ready for light blocking and a coat of white paint, like I said, before I put on my blue. I've already got this painted with a white and light block, so that's ready to go. But I've got to get this. You can see Gary also provides this blue frisket mask that goes around. You don't really have to use it, but it keeps paint from getting on the area where you're going to be applying glue later. So if you don't, it's easier just to go ahead and apply this than to not use it and then have to scratch that paint off later. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it does make things a little bit easier to keep it clean. So I've got that ready. I'm just going to mask this off and then paint my black and keep this on the parts tree, because that way I don't have to touch it and take a chance of messing up with my fingerprints or that. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some coats on this, and we'll come back and take a look either at this, or we'll move on to something else while this is drying. Stay tuned. All right, so I've got this lower impulse crystal worked out, and I did finally settle on a blue that I actually like. Let me see if I can figure out where this focus needs to be. There we go. And you can see that's painted on there. Now that blue, I did end up having to mix some paints in order to get a blue I liked, and I really like that blue. I think it looks good. It's not an exact match for what it looks like on screen, but again, like I said, it's hard to tell what the exact color is there anyway. Is it a dark blue? Is it a light blue? So it's really up to you what you want to do with it. But I basically just kept doing some different paint samples until I got one I liked. And the one I ended up with is this one here on the end. And let's see, I need to focus here again. So what I did was I mixed a couple of paints together to get that color, because these were just too dark. This one was still too dark, and the other one that I originally liked was too light. It was just too light of a blue. And you can see it actually where I did some of the painting on here, and I just didn't like that. It just focus again. It's just too light of a blue. I didn't like that blue at all. So plus I'm redoing this anyway, and I'll show you that here in a little bit as soon as it gets done printing. But I really like that shade of blue, so that's what I'm going to go with. And if anybody's interested, the way I got that blue was I did use the True Blue that I bought, which is one of the original ones I was going to try, which is actually this first swatch here. You see, it's just a little bit too dark for me. I didn't like how dark that was. So what I did was I took this True Blue and I mixed it with some of this, and I hate showing this because I don't even know if you can get this in Anita's anymore. I know Hobby Lobby stopped carrying it, and I think Michael's, I don't even think Michael's carries it either. I'd have to go back there and look, but I know Hobby Lobby, at least my Hobby Lobby, stopped carrying it. But I actually had made this a little bit lighter for my navy blue gray for my refit. So this is a little bit different than what it comes in the bottle, but not much. But this is Cloudy Sky, Anita's Craft paint. Cloudy Sky is what this one's called. So I did 2 drops. Oop, I'm throwing my bottles now. I did 2 drops of the True Blue. I did 2 drops of this Cloudy Sky, and then I did 3 drops of this Folk Art Matte Pale Gray, and that's how I got that color. And I really like that color. That's what I'm going to use for my blues on the entire ship, because I just think that blue looks good. I think it'll go great, and it's a really close match, if not spot on for what I see in the pictures. So it's good enough for me. I'm happy with it. And but let me show you this light. I've got this wired up, and I did go ahead and get this painted. I'll mask this over when I go to paint the rest of the model. That way it's protected. But let me grab my battery here and see if I can do this with one hand. And there we go. You can see how that's lighting up that amber color. And remember, this is going to flash on and off with the running lights. So you can do whatever you want with this light, but that's the way it was on the studio model. So that's the way I'm doing this. And I didn't use any diffusion in this. It actually looks pretty good without diffusion. With this, by the time you do all this painting, the holes are so small that it kind of helps to diffuse it on its own. So I like that. That's what I'm going with. And but basically all I did was I showed you the housing that I made. This will be part of the light boxes. This will be part of that set you'll be able to download here once I'm done finagling with all these. I still had to finish the shuttle bays, and then I've got some smaller ones that I did here that I've got to actually make a little bit bigger because they're too thin and they just crumple up too easy. So I've got these ready. I've just got to try out the resize on these and make sure they're good to go. And see what else I got. I've got this one, which is kind of a larger one. You don't really have to print this. Again, you can just cut out a circle, which is what I originally was going to do. Was just cut out a piece of sheet styrene and use it. So you can do that, but to get a little more height off of where I need these light bulbs to be, I made this because I was able to add a little bit of a lip to it to give me a little more of a rise to it. And this is going to cover all my windows and light my windows on the bottom here. So I've got to get that set up. And I think that's just about it for the bottom here. I've got, I did do up a new, I just went ahead and redid a totally new lower sensor dome because I just wasn't happy with the kit part. The only issue I'm going to have is I may have to make some adjustments to the mask design masks to make them fit the one I did, because it's a little bit different dimensions. But we'll see. It shouldn't be that hard to make it work with the lower sensor dome that I did. It's basically the same shape. It's just the dimensions are going to be a little bit different. There's a couple little extra greeblies that I added to the one that I did that hopefully is going to make it stand out a bit more. So that's what I've got going. I am, excuse me, I am going to wait for that sensor dome, that lower sensor dome to finish printing, see how that turns out. Get that worked out. We'll come back and take a look. So I've got to get that sensor dome in place before I can put this in place and seal that up to light these lower windows. So give me a little bit. I'm going to work on that, and we'll come back here and take a look. All right, guys. So I've got, I went ahead and just did an entirely new lower sensor dome because I was not happy with the kit part. And the kit part was lacking quite a few details. For example, here's the kit part, and the kit part was missing. There's some ribbing around this dome, and that was missing. So I've got a part here that's on this part here, and is also missing. If you look at this area here on the studio model, I'll show you this picture. You'll notice in that area there's two pieces that stick out in between the spotlight areas there, and that's missing from the kit part. So I have added those, or put those on this part here, so you can see those are added, so it's more like the studio model part. And then in addition, on the studio model, as far as I could tell, these side spotlights are just dimly lit. So you can see I've got those dimly lit there. And then the front has, of course, the two red lights. Let me turn this off so you can see this. And of course I got to do some more light blocking. I've got to finish doing putty work around the base there, but you kind of get the idea of how this is turning out. That looks pretty good to me. Let me know what you think in the comments, but I think that looks pretty good. So I've got that set up, And again, here's the spotlights on the side, dimly lit, just like on the studio model. So I think that's going to work. I'm much happier with the way that turned out. And you can also see I did a lot of my light blocking on the inside. I got a couple light leaks I've got to put some more tulip in and work out, but quite a bit of it's toned down, so you won't have to worry too much about light bleeding through the plastic on the hull. Although I do have one spot right here you can see real bright. There's a spot here, there's a couple of spots over here, but I'll get those tidied up either before I button up the hull, or I'll have to come over this a little bit with my airbrush and just put a little black in a couple spots to black that out. But I think I can, there's a couple spots on here where I need to, I'm going to have to do it from the outside, because this spot here, for example, is inside of this light box. So I can't do it from the inside. Same thing for pretty much all these, I believe. Look like they're all inside the light boxes. So I'm going to have to come from the outside to fix that. Not a big deal, not a problem. So with that, my light fell out. I gotta glue that in place yet. So with that that lower sensor dome lighting worked out, now I'm ready to block off these windows and light these, and then we'll pretty much be done with lighting the windows. And I just got to install my nav lights, and there's no strobe on the bottom, so I just got to install the nav lights and get that all wired up, and we'll be ready to move on to the upper half, the upper half of the saucer section. So give it a little bit, do some more work on this, and we will come back and see where we're at. All right, so I have pretty much got everything done on the lower half of the saucer. Excuse me. The only thing I've got to do is I've got to put these the nav lights in on the corners. And but that won't take long, and I'm actually working on something to where I'm hoping to only have to put in one LED for the upper and the bottom, but I've got to see if I can work something out that'll work for that. So we'll look at that next episode, but let me show you what we're looking like right now. Turn this light off, and you can see how that's lighting up. Now these don't have the window inserts in yet, so they're not pulling the light out as much as they will once the inserts are in. But you can see how those are kind of lighting up. You see, obviously I've got some light blocking I've got to do in a couple spots, and I expected that. That's fine. But let's take a look at the front here. You can see those two red lights lighting up on the sensor dome there on the front of the spotlights, and then my spotlights on the side and on the back. Those are all dimly lit, not very brightly lit. They're not going to cast any light really, but we've got all of our windows in place. Again, these don't have the inserts in yet, and you can see I've still got some more light blocking to do on the inside here. I've got that I temporarily hooked up my antenna controls flasher board, so you can see how that's going to flash with the navs once I get those installed. So that's lighting up. It's weird how why they did. I don't really understand why they have that blinking in sync with the navs, but I guess they wanted it to serve some purpose, so that's what they did. But that's the way it is in the movie, so that's the way I'm doing mine. And here is that back end. You can see where I've got these are all cool white, and then my triangles, those lights are warm white, because that's the way it looked in the movie to me. That's what I thought it looked like, was kind of a cool white with those lights in each corner or each side of the shuttle bay, and then the triangles look like warm white to me. That's just what I'm looking at, and that's just the way I did it. But you know, you're welcome to do it any way you want. But yeah, so far looking pretty good. I think those shuttle bay doors are going to light up just fine like that, especially once I get them painted the lighter color, and then they'll reflect some of that light as well. Plus I still got to look at doing inserts. If I can get inserts that'll work with this, I'll do that, and that'll draw some more of that light out if I can do that. But yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm at. I think I'm just going to go ahead and do one more video for lighting, and we should be able to wrap up the saucer light. Obviously I'm going to have to do something for the nacelles and all that when we get to that part, but as far as getting the lighting done for the saucer, I'm going to do one more video on it because I think I'm pushing about 35-40 minutes on this, and I'm trying not to make videos so long because I know not everybody's got time to really sit here and watch, you know, an hour-long video. But anyway, I think that's it's turned out really nice. Again, there's another look at all the light boxes. I've got the big light box up here. Again, I've got some more light blocking to do, but this gives you an idea of where the model's going. And there's that front. I'm a lot happier. Excuse me. I'm a lot happier with the way that lower sensor dome looks with those improvements. I've already been talking to Cass over Lake Monster Details, and he is going to put that out ASAP. So I'm going to send that part over to him, and should be good. So we'll get those parts out, make them available for everybody, and again, everything's looking good. So like I said, pretty much gonna wrap this video up. I think this is a good stopping point. We'll come back one more episode. We'll do the lighting on the top, which really on the top excuse me, the lighting on the top is basically just doing those let me get my top out here. It's basically just getting these front windows done, and then like I said, we'll do the nav lights, and we've also got to do the impulse crystal, which should be pretty simple. And that's pretty much it. That should be a pretty easy video to get done and not have it be terribly long. And then that'll pretty much be all of our lighting for the saucer. We can start looking at getting this sealed up, and then getting our we've got to get our weapons pod done, and we've got to get our nacelles done. So getting close. And then once we get this sealed up, then we can start looking at doing the main painting with Gary's mask. Again, that blue, I'm pretty happy with that shade of blue there. And just so you know, the studio model, these are painted the same blue, it looks like, as the blue that's used throughout the rest of the ship. So I've got those painted. Probably have to do a little touch up on it because I do still have to finish the seam work around this. So we'll get that done, and everything should be good to go. But so again, as always, thank you everybody for watching these videos, and thank you for hitting that subscribe button. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps me out tremendously with my sponsors. And you know what's coming next. As always, I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsors: Gus over at GCals, Paul over at Paragrafix, Gary over at Mass Design, and Cass over at Lake Monster Details. Again, thanking all of them for their support. As always, the links for their sites and for their order pages are in the notes below this video, so please show them some love, click those, check it out, order something from them. But again, thank you everybody for watching. Till next time, keep modeling.